Address of the President to the joint sitting of the two houses in line with Article 132(1)(c) of the Constitution of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, I wish to thank members of this House and members of the National Assembly for turning out almost to full House in their numbers to listen to the President. Mr. Speaker, I wish to request this House that spirit should be, if possible, or as much as possible, be kept in ensuring that we debate on this speech. Mr. Speaker, because the speech of the President was both audio, video, and also in draft form, and all members followed it, I don't want to make the mistake of taking a lot of time in moving this motion, walking through the same speech, which members are familiar with. But just allow me to make a few points of highlights. The first one, Mr. Speaker, being the fact that the country was impressed with the President's commitment to the need for us to transform this country in keeping with our bottom-up economic plan. Mr. Speaker.
Senator Boni.
Yes.
You need first start with the motion.
Oh, I needed to move the motion. Mr. Speaker, sir, I am extremely sorry. And if you allow me, Clerk, I would like to read the motion before I move it. Mr. Speaker, this is the danger of being assigned a job. You are excited to finish. But if it was me coming in my seat, I would have started by what I did. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, I move the motion. Mr. Speaker, sir, I move the motion, which is debate on the President's address to Parliament on the first day, being today. That pursuant to Standing Order number 25(1), the thanks of this Senate be recorded for the exposition of public policy contained in the address of His Excellency the President, delivered on Thursday, the 9th November 2023, and further that the Senate notes the following report submitted by His Excellency the President in fulfillment of Articles 132(1)(c) and Article 247 of the Constitution of Kenya, laid on the table of the Senate today on Tuesday, 14th November 2023. This report, Mr. Speaker, included the 10th State of the Nation address by His Excellency the President, delivered at a joint sitting of Parliament on Thursday, 9th November. And 2, the 10th Annual Report 2022-2023 on the measures taken and progress achieved in realization of the national values and principles of governance. And 3, the Annual Report to Parliament on the state of the nation, the national security, November 2023. Mr. Speaker, with the advice of the clerk, because we want to allow as many people as possible to contribute, allow me not to be repetitive. What I had said in the 3 minutes earlier to apply during record of Hansard, copy and paste, so that I can move to the next point. My next point, Mr. Speaker, I wanted to congratulate the President for admitting before the joint sitting of the House that in Kenya today we have an existing condition, in fact conditions of extreme difficulty. There is extreme difficulty in the country. And some members of the public who mean well, they know that leadership must look for a solution. But other members of the public who want to score points want to use this opportunity of difficult circumstances that our people are going through to either make fun of leaders or confirm that they have failed. It is difficult. I've been in politics for over 20 years, and in my life, I have never been heckled in the Luo Nation. All the way from Kitale to Bungoma, to Kakamega, to Vihiga, and to Busia, and Luoland in the diaspora. Mr. Speaker, sir.
What is the point of order, Senator Sifuna?
Mr. Speaker, Honorable Khalwale, the Senator of Kakamega, is misleading this House. In fact, as late as a few weeks ago, Boni Khalwale was heckled in his own village when he tried to convince people to replace the existing border motorcycles with electric ones. This is something of a matter of public record to which Mr. Khalwale, Honorable Khalwale, should not lie to this House.
But Senator Sifuna, I thought the good senator is admitting that for the first time he's going through a rough patch.
Mr. Speaker, I was saying that things are so difficult, my kid brother, that for a man who has never been heckled across the Luo Nation, all the way from Kitale to Kakamega, to Bungoma, to Busia, to Vihiga and the diaspora, for the first time, I was not only heckled, Mr. Speaker, but I was actually heckled at Malinya Stadium. Thank you. I was heckled at Malinya Stadium. And at Malinya Stadium, that is my home. That is my polling station. Malinya Stadium is the product of my hands. It is where, Mr. Speaker, the youth on the eve of polling usually sleep in the polling station waiting for the polling officers to come and open the station and so that they can vote for me. And Mr. Speaker, where I have always gotten 41 votes out of 3,800 votes plus as opposition votes to me. And I know the owners of those votes. They are, like I'm speaking now, I can see the vote of Ben Alusiola. It's one of those ODM votes, you know, small things. Mr. Speaker, I reflected hard and long on this. And then shortly after that, I saw Kenya's most popular politician today, William Ruto. There was a similar experience somewhere in the coast. And I went thinking further, and I realized, I called the president, I couldn't access him. I wanted to tell him, these people, they like us so much. It's not that they're heckling. They want us to hear it from them direct, that things are bad. So it doubles our calling that we must work hard and serve Kenyans a solution. I want to urge colleagues, members of parliament, whether you are in the opposition, we have been there. Now I'm in the government, I have been there. Let us work together, even if we are going to oppose each other at the forthcoming election. We work hard enough. Members of the opposition push us hard enough so that we can deliver. We want to make sure that we come out of this confusion that, as we all know, was occasioned by 2 years of total lockdown on the global market, including, Mr. Speaker, Chwele market in the backyard of the Senator for Nairobi, including Lubao market was locked, Kayeke was locked, Mutuapa was locked for 2 years. There was no business. So things will take a while before we recover. I was talking to an economist, Mr. Speaker, and he was telling me something. If it is wrong, Americans, please forgive me. But the economist told me, it was not the economist in the House, the center of Migori. He told me the Americans are the only ones who enjoy the monopoly of printing money. And during the COVID time, they printed dollars and were putting on the accounts of Americans so that Americans could be cushioned from the difficulties of COVID-19 at that time. And he was telling me, he could be wrong, I don't know. I'm just sharing with you a good story of two adults when they are seated in the usual place. He told me, what's happening is that the Americans now, they are mopping out those dollars from the market. And therefore, the exercise of mopping out has made it difficult for you to get dollars. Obviously, when on the market a commodity is hard to get, when on the market a commodity is in high demand, it is called the law of supply and demand, that commodity becomes expensive. That's why the Kenya shilling, we are spending more money to get the dollar. The moment we get it right, you'll have your time to debate.
Senator Boni, what is the point of order, Senator Kenyo? Mr. Speaker, I like listening to the good doctor and Senator for Kakamega. But Mr. Speaker, you know, sometimes he confuses us. Right now, he talked about the usual place, Mr. Speaker. So I don't know which is the usual place. It can be a bullfighting field, Mr. Speaker. It can be a bar. For me, usual place is the church. So I didn't know what he meant.
Mr. Speaker, that is frivolous. But all the same, I want to advise the young senator that when you come of age, you'll discover that people of adult age tend to sit in certain places in the evening so as to compare the greatness of their minds. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is because of that principle of supply and demand, the economist was telling me, that we are finding it difficult and finding the dollar very expensive. I'm hoping that he was right. Soon, the depreciation of our shilling will slow down. And I've been following it. I follow it every day. It used to appreciate from the time we took over government. It was appreciating sometimes by 20 shillings, sometimes by 5 shillings, like that. But now it has gone down. In the last 3 weeks, Mr. Speaker, it has been depreciating by cents. Today it was at 0.6. Before we went for weekend, it was at 0.5. Earlier on, it was 0.3. So we're doing well. And we would like to encourage Kenyans that you allow the things that the president spoke to, that we put in place for us to ensure that our country recovers. And by the way, my dear colleagues, able friends from the opposition, we gave you a chance to tell Kenyans how you'd fix it. And you told us we were not doing it well. What were we doing? We were giving cheaper fertilizer. Now down from 7,000 to 2,500. And you told us that could not be the magic bullet. We said, be it. So you called big rallies. And I want to thank you for standing down your rallies. And your idea of lowering the food prices was putting cooking pots and sufurias on your heads. That kind of science, as a scientific mind, I can only relate it to mental illness. How on earth? It is not possible. If that is how we are going to teach our children at home, then we might as well outlaw education in this country. Mr. Speaker, the president, therefore, deserves our kudos for his commitment to our citizens. That was not only limited to that, but he also spoke to his commitment to the citizens' freedoms. His commitment, Mr. Speaker, to fundamental rights, and his commitment, Mr. Speaker, to democracy. Nothing is more important. Those of us who exercise fierce independence of mind, we do it because that has been our life, and we have decided that is our life. Young senator from Migori, at the age of 22, at the University of Nairobi, before I was discontinued, we poured into the streets of Nairobi because Haminwa had been detained. We poured into the streets of Nairobi at that time Mr. Speaker, because Jaramogi Oginga Odinga had been put under house arrest somewhere in Bondo or his Kisumu house. The youth leader is here, Senator Siaya will confirm. We poured into the streets. We poured in the streets, Mr. Speaker, because George Kidhi, the editor general of the Standard newspaper, had been detained at the age of 22. And for that reason, Mr. Speaker, I and others, we were discontinued from the University of Nairobi. So, because we believed in those things then, I don't see how I can lose sight of the fact that people paid, including Kenneth Matiba, including Martin Shikuku, including John Maria Serone, who were detained because of defending the freedom of speech. Nobody should ever deny a politician or any other Kenyan the freedom to speak. I therefore want to use this platform this afternoon, Mr. Speaker, to condemn the violence that was visited on the Orange Democratic Movement Member of Parliament of Mumias East constituency by the governor of Kakamega because he was not comfortable with the speech of that MP. A member, sorry, the MP belongs to DAP. That's what you wanted to correct me. And the governor with bad manners belongs to ODM. Mr. Speaker, we must condemn this. People must speak. How can you stop people from speaking? Mr. Speaker, the issue of freedom of speech is so fundamental that I have been arraigned in court in this country because of your debate. Relax.
What is the point of order, Senator Eddy?
Mr. Speaker, I'm on a point of order on relevance. Mr. Speaker, the majority whip has been invited to this house on this floor to move a motion on the state of national address by His Excellency William Ruto, the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Kenyan Defense Forces. Mr. Speaker, is Senator Boni in order to use this precious time of this wonderful house to discuss village politics and bullfighting? You know, Mr. Speaker, you know, it's very disappointing because focus on what the president say. If you cannot understand what the president said or you don't have the confidence in defending it, then just sit down. The members of the house will help you because you're even confusing the entire nation.
Senator Eddy, what is your point of order? You're not supposed to give a speech.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I wanted to find Senator Boni out of order to bring irrelevant issues and village politics in presidential speech. Let him move this speech and let him defend it as the majority whip. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Eddy, one of the aspects as contained in that particular speech by the president are the freedoms we enjoy, including the freedom of speech. And that's why Senator Boni was giving an example. He's quite in order to do that. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to be very humble. My son, it's always good, Mr. Speaker, for a...
Refer to your colleague as the Honorable Senator.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry to call him my son because he has got the handsome, youngish face of Tigana. So I thought he was Tigana, my son. I wish to recall. Mr. Speaker, it pays in your first term in Parliament, and my age mate, Oburu is here. Senator Oburu will confirm to you that it pays to spend some little time to learn. on the exposition of the speech of the president normally makes bullet. If you go to bullet 10, it will call your point of order to shame. Because in bullet 10, the president speaks to citizens' freedoms and fundamental rights, and he says they lie at the heart of the enterprise and democracy. So if we don't allow it, so that the children at the University of Nairobi, who will be soon taking over from us here as our senators, so that the MCAs who will graduate to come to this house can know how you debate this kind of motion. You don't debate it in the same manner that we debate the others. Mr. Speaker, the president said, and I want to laud him, that immediately he went into office, he quickly did certain things that were touching the will of running the nation. And Senator Sifuna is here, Catherine Muma is seated there, and our clerk Jeremiah is there, and the speaker is seated there, and on my left I can see Cherargei is there, and Mungatana, eminent lawyers of the Republic of Kenya. They know the meaning of giving the judiciary a budget. The president actually gave the judiciary 3 billion shillings immediate, and as if it was not enough, he instantly appointed 6 judges, including my own cousin, Justice Egri Mujerure. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, these members are now confusing me. Mr. Speaker, this is the way to govern a nation. And these big things that he's doing, you cannot see the evidence today. It's going to take a bit of time when now you unlock the logjam of cases that are not being dealt with in the judiciary, because now judiciary will be having its own budget, judiciary will be having enough judges in the Court of Appeal and so on. This is the way we go so as Kenyans can access justice. Mr. Speaker, it is important that we allow the president for speaking to the attempt to reverse the cost of high living. I will not go into details. He talked about fertilizer cost. He talked about housing. And in housing, we all know how it is going to help in making sure that the cost of living goes down. Mr. Speaker, I'm a farmer. I do sugarcane farming, and I do dairy farming, and I do maize farming. For a long time, I have been doing 18 bags of maize per acre. But because fertilizer was cheaper, I was encouraged. I used to avoid buying because I was making a net loss. But because it was only 2,500, Mr. Speaker, I was encouraged, and I'm glad that for the first time, I harvested, Senator of Siaya, 27 bags per acre. A huge difference. I can imagine if I was having a big farm, I would have actually taken my children, I would have paid the school fees at the university for my sons and daughters who are there, out of that. This is what we want to do for our economy. Speaking on the same maize, you go to Kitale, you go to Bungoma, you go to Lugari, you go to Trans Nzoia, you go to Washinigishu, it is a bittersweet. It is bittersweet. You know what has happened? Because we have produced more, again, the law of supply and demand has set in. So a bag of maize, 90 kilograms, which we were buying for 8,000 shillings, now the farmer had planted and had harvested thinking that he would make 8,000, 7,000, 6,000. It has dropped down to 3,600. So it is bittersweet. You, the guys who we feed, we are from the food basket. You are happy, you are getting cheap food. But us, we are not making money. So the principle of guaranteed minimum returns, we want to urge the president and his ministers and his cabinet to ensure that for every crop in this country, be it the maize farmer, the sugarcane farmer, coffee, what have you, a farmer must have a guaranteed minimum return that ensures that for every crop they make a profit. Mr. Speaker, the President spoke on the issue of finance, and elaborately he told us about the efforts he has taken to stabilize the situation. But the telling point, out of the 10 or so points he raised on matters of finance, there was only one point that touched me. He said that the infamous Eurobond that was borrowed by the handshake government and which has brought us a lot of problems. I can see Sifuna is starting to look like he has swallowed a live bee. It's a pity. You were not here at that time.
Senator Boni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Unwarranted. Please, Senator Boni, proceed to withdraw that particular statement.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to withdraw my remark that Senator Sifuna is looking like he has swallowed a live bee. It is not true. You know, when you have a live bee in the stomach, Mr. Speaker, you cannot look happy in the face. I withdraw and apologize to Senator Sifuna. But Senator Sifuna is my joking friend, so we always joke together.
Senator Boni, if you are done, kindly take
No,
a seat.
No, Mr. Speaker, let me complete the President's speech. I would be failing on my duties if I did not say that because...
What is your point of order, Senator Funakuru?
My good friend, Boni Khalwale, if I didn't know you more, I would have said you've taken that changa from the Kakamega. But I think now I'm on the other side saying,
Senator Funakuru,
can we take...
what is the standing order that you're anchoring your point of
be
order?
affected? So can you take this matter very seriously, very, very seriously, because I think what we are talking about is very, very serious. That's what I can only say for now.
Order, Senator Sifuna.
Mr. Speaker, correct me if I'm wrong, but there has been a previous ruling of the chair that in fact there has never existed in the history of our republic a government called or known as the handshake government. In fact, we had a government formed by a party called Jubilee, in which the president was Uhuru Kenyatta and the deputy of the republic, or the deputy president of the republic, was William Ruto. The Hansard will bear me witness, Mr. Speaker, that we have had this previous engagement, and the chair has directed that in fact there is no entity in the history of this country called the handshake government, and I would object strongly to those references to such government by Senator Khalwale in his submissions.
Senator Boni, you know, the previous government was formed by a political party called Jubilee, which did 2 terms. I do understand that in the second term, the Jubilee government had a handshake with the party leader of ODM, but that does not qualify that particular government to be called a handshake government. The responsibility of whatever happened lied squarely with the Jubilee government.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand guided. It's quite true. What you have guided me on is also true that Senator Sifuna is right. You know, Mr. Speaker, sometimes the mind can play games on you. When you see an imagery of the then Deputy President running away from the Jubilee government, and as he goes out, you see another man running in. Then the one who was running doesn't come out, he stays there for so long that, Mr. Speaker, the act of running into that burning house, he ended up being burned there until his ambition of becoming president went up in ashes. So I apologize to the Senator of Nairobi, and my sister, your point of order, which obviously was under 105, Senator of Nakuru, you mean well that I'm associated with Changa, which is true. And you are associated with the Keroshe things, which is also true.
Senator Boni,
yes.
You know, you've taken so much time. And any person seated listening to you to move this motion is wondering exactly what you're doing. Can you get down to it?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what is weighing me down are points of the order. But if there were no points of order, I would just be articulating point and E. But now points of order, I have to deal with them. Mr. Speaker, I was making my final submission on the issue of the most important statement that the President made. It was about Eurobond, $2 billion. And Mr. Speaker, this country has been living with the sword of Dumakok over our heads because we were going to be declared uncredit worthy. But thanks to the hard work of the President, he has confirmed that next month we are going to pay off in advance $300 million. And that we are not going to default until the entire 2 billion shillings is settled. With those remarks, I allowed the President, and I wish to invite the distinguished senator from Tana River to come and second me. And Senator of Tana River, as you second me, today there was a report of a hero, of a teenage girl in Tana River who crossed the river to go across to go and deliver pregnant woman. Mr. Speaker, sir, protect me.